Hey guys, welcome back to InSTEM. I'm extremely excited to have with me today one of the biggest STEM content creators in the country and an absolute social media phenomenon. I am joined by the amazing Mohammad Taher. Welcome, Mohammad.
Thanks so much.
As you may already know, Mohammad is a multi-award winning engineer. He built a massive online community with over 500,000 followers where he educates them about the fascinating world of the aviation industry. A true influencer, an amazing role model. It's really great to have you, Mohammad. I know we've been planning this for a couple of months now, and it's great to have you on the InSTEM.
Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate all the kind words.
Awesome. So we're going to be diving into how you combined your passion for storytelling and engineering to discovering purpose from it. And not only that, but you've also made a huge impact in changing the narrative of the aviation sector. We're also going to be talking about what it's like to be a full-time content creator. You recently made the big announcements that you're going to quit your engineering job to becoming a full-time content creator. So we'll be exploring what it means to be an entrepreneur in this ever-evolving world of STEM.
Yeah, I'm excited to sort of share maybe some insights and hopefully somebody can be inspired by it. I think there's some I guess when you distill it all, very common nuggets that everybody can apply to their own situation.
I'm looking forward to learning and get ready to be inspired, guys. So first things first, on InSTEM podcast, we ask icebreaker questions.
Okay.
So your icebreaker question is, what is the coolest thing you've ever witnessed at an airport?
Oh my God, coolest thing I've ever witnessed at an airport. You know what? I'll tell you what. So the control tower at Heathrow Airport has a balcony.
Right.
And when you're sat on the balcony of the control tower, you're literally like hovering above the entire airport now. And I'm like when you look down, all that's between you and the drop is like a bit of like metal sort of caging. So you're literally you can see straight through the ground onto like and you're like on the top of the tower. The coolest thing though is when you look out. It's such a weird thing to think about, but when a plane takes off, while you're in the control tower, you are above it.
Oh.
So you actually watch a plane take off from the top.
Oh wow!
So you look down and you see a plane take off, and then there's a moment where it sort of gets to eye level, and so being able to witness an airplane mid-flight at eye level is such a unique experience, especially not while I'm behind a glass wall somewhere, like I'm out in the open on a balcony, literally looking out and I'm seeing a plane just go.
Wow, that sounds super cool. That sounds super cool. I'd love to experience that. Yeah, awesome. So obviously you're known as the airport guy. I should have mentioned that in the intro, but you are the airport guy. And I'd imagine that all started from, your degree as an aerospace engineer. So you studied aerospace engineering at university.
That's right.
So I'd like to understand, and if you could walk us through what attracted you to this field.
Yeah, so it really starts off with the question of like the stuff I was consuming on YouTube. Like early doors. There's a guy called Smarter Every Day who's an aerospace engineer himself also. But he does videos about how things work, and he mainly focuses about now he does everything, but he used to focus on like the International Space Station. He used to talk about, had a whole series on helicopters. He used to talk about how things work, and I remember I used to live a double life where I used to go to school and pretend I liked football and I liked all this stuff. I'd go home and I'd just binge watch planes and helicopters and space stations, and so I loved watching that sort of content, but I didn't realize this could be me. This could actually be me, and I didn't realize that was possible. It felt like there was kind of this you could be interested in this stuff, but don't think you'll ever get there. It just felt so far removed. It wasn't the first time it felt closer was when my brother-in-law managed to organize a day trip to this company called Marshall Aerospace up in Cambridge, and this company literally has the facilities to design, build, and fly an airplane, all from one space.
That sounds cool.
So they have the offices, they have the manufacturing plant, and they have a runway, all in one place. So they can literally take a plane through that. I remember walking around that plant going,
amazing, right?
Wow, this is I don't want to do anything unless it's this.
Yeah.
And I thought, how do I get there? Okay, let's I don't know, but I guess like an aerospace engineering degree should put me like in that direction at least. So that's kind of like how my own thinking was like, I don't know where I want to be, but I like this stuff.
Yeah.
So what degree is going to enable me to like at least steer my ship roughly in that direction? And an aerospace engineering degree felt like the right thing to do.
That's amazing. And what I love about your journey and your discovery of aerospace as the right degree for you is you're now doing what that guy was doing. Many people now will be saying that they are considered a career in aerospace engineering, in STEM, in aviation, because they've seen your videos. So it's amazing that you're giving back as well. So moving on to your career, you've often mentioned that working at Heathrow was a dream job, dream experience for you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to understand what makes working at Heathrow, truly special to you.
That's a very good question, and actually one that I haven't had to answer since like I've left.
Right.
So if I cry, don't
worry, we've got some tissue.
You know what it is? Heathrow, not first of all, from on a personal level, it's my local airport. It's the place I literally used to go to as a kid to go on holidays. It was a place where like my fascination would peak. Of like I remember like going through that tunnel, going towards the airport, seeing like the Concorde then get replaced with like the A380 that's like outside, just as you're about to enter, walking through the terminals. Like my childhood was there, like, and that fascination was always there. And then the day that I worked there, I joined the engineering team, so I was now seeing the behind the scenes of all of this place, and I was seeing like what it takes to uphold this, and I realized like, wow, like there is so much work that goes on behind the scenes, like to uphold this place, and it's busy, like it's continuously busy, and it's like go, go, go all the time. And I recently heard a podcast which described something, and it said that working in the aviation industry, honestly, fundamentally, we're in the people business. We're in the business of moving people around the world, and it just so happens that planes is the way that we do it. Now, I think that's a very, very high level way of looking at it. I like planes, so I'm glad that that's the way that we do it. But ultimately, like when you're walking through the airport and you see people going on holiday, you realize every single person's got their own journey. Every single person's on their own adventure. Some people are going backpacking. There's a family going to see his grandparents. There's maybe somebody who's just lost a loved one who's going to watch them be buried. There's somebody, like a lads group on holiday who's like going to celebrate someone's, new sort of life in marriage. So you realize like the airport is like the facilitator of dreams. It's a facilitator of journeys. It's a facilitator of being able to see and explore and appreciate the world in a way that is so beautiful, because you realize that every single person who sat there in the airport is about to go and enter a whole new world. And you must feel it yourself. Like it's when you're sat on a plane and you take off and you land, and then that first moment when you step off the plane and the air feels different. Like that's a whole different like life that you've just been able to dip into. And the airport is the facilitator of that. So being able to then go behind the scenes to say, what does it take to facilitate all of that? And then really feel the buzz that sits behind it and watch the planes take off and, know that, oh my God, how much hard work has it taken to make this a reality? But it's so worth it. Like, it's amazing. It is so worth it, because what's on the other side of that plane landing is an entire new set of experiences and life that allows people to expand their mind and see the world in a different way.
That's such an amazing perspective. Like, honestly, I didn't necessarily see it that way. I just saw it as a place that I went to, to hop on my flight and go to, but to link it to actually help people achieve their dreams, their vision, their plans, their goals. It's an amazing perspective, and no wonder actually people are so fascinated by the stories that you tell, because if you're able to see it from that way, from that point of view, then people can have a fuller appreciation for what airports actually do in our lives. That's amazing. So it's clear that working at Heathrow was an absolutely fascinating experience for you, but at some point you transitioned from the technical aspects of engineering into more using your skills, soft skills in particular, storytelling, communication. So what led you to make that shift?
It wasn't really a shift, it was more an emergence, but that operated side by side for 5 years. Right? So I've always been that kid on holiday who like pull out my camera and like film stuff. And, like I've always loved creating, I've loved making videos. And actually there's a few elements of this puzzle that I need to sort of explain to help you get a full picture.
Yeah.
So number one is that I loved making videos ever since I was a kid. Like I had like a YouTube channel and I was making all these holiday vlogs. That's number one. Number two is when I was in college, I set up the engineering society and I founded it. There was no engineering society and I was like, I want an engineering society. So I set up this engineering society. And what I would do is I'd take really complicated concepts in engineering and try and simplify them for the years, sort of the year before me. So I was in year 13, they were in year 12, and I would explain to them this engineering stuff. So then I got really good at taking really complicated concepts and learning how to simplify them. Then I found myself at the airport and I was learning all these complicated things. And in my mind, I would know how to explain it in a simple way. So when I would be like at home and like somebody would ask me, so how does the baggage system work? I'm like, oh, this is how it works. And then one of my aunties was like, why don't you share this stuff? Like, you just explain this to me in such an interesting way. I never realized that happens at the airport. Why don't you share your journey? Why don't you share the stuff you're learning? So I was like, like who's going to care? But bless her, Hawra, her name is, my auntie. She was like, no, why don't you just do it? So I just started an Instagram page, you know, and I'd already started this Instagram page, Motivate, because I wanted it to be a place where I can share like my personal development journey. Because I was really into personal development. But it kind of transitioned to this place that I was just sharing, not just my personal development journey, but like the whole journey. So then you can sort of see how now all of a sudden I'm in a place where I'm learning all this stuff. I'm taking really complicated stuff and I'm simplifying it. And I just embed my love for making videos on top of it. And the sort of the baby that pops out the other side is these 40 to 50 second videos where I'm explaining complicated engineering things in simple to understand ways, and then putting it onto the internet. So it was such an organic sort of piecing together of like everything that made me to just foster something on the internet. And I learned how to become more confident and speak better and all this sort of stuff just by doing. So yeah, that happened. And then the videos started to gain more and more traction. And that's when sort of my following online started to overtake that of Heathrow airports, which I thought was insane. Like, I remember the first day I done the maths and I was like, whoa, like what? Like how
That's
I got
amazing.
more followers than Heathrow. But I think at the core of it is because like I'm just a kid who's passionate. Like, you know, like I was that kid who was watching this stuff. So I know how it feels to be on the receiving end of this stuff. And like I really felt like nobody was talking about airports. So why not? Like why not own that space? And I did. And I just went for it and I gave it my all. And I'm so grateful like for, you know, God's been able to pave a path for me that I didn't even ever envision. Like there was never a vision to be where I'm at. But it's kind of like it unfolds. And yeah, like once the messages start to roll in of like people saying, hey, by the way, man, like I'm starting my job next week and it was all because of you. I got a message a couple of days ago of this girl. She literally quit her job, became a air hostess. And she's literally on the cusp of finishing her training and she's about to like become an air hostess.
That's amazing.
For, you know, like, and that's like, she's like, the only reason I'm doing this is because of your videos. And I'm like,
that's amazing. Like,
think about how many opportunities she's going to unlock in her life. How many cool things she's going to get to experience. And because of like TikTok and Instagram videos, I think we underestimate how much people make decisions based on what they see online. It's what the feed, right? That's what we keep scrolling through. And actually, I decided rather than being on the consumer side of the feed, I wanted to be on the creator side of the feed and actually put stuff on there. So that's how I guess and by the way, all of this happening, I was still like doing my engineering stuff in the background. So I was the aerodrome system specialist for Heathrow Airport. So I was looking after all of the aerodrome systems, the control tower, the runway lights, the stuff that parks up the aeroplanes across the whole patch. So all 4 terminals, both runways, the control tower, the whole lot. And I was juggling the social media stuff on the side. And it became a lot, but I used to love it.
Wow, there's so much to unpack in that answer. I guess the first takeaway for me is leaning into your gifts and interests. You had a flair for creating videos, for telling stories, and you leverage that. And I think it's such a, such an important message for young people. I think there's no better time you get to experiment, and you experimented as well. And here you are today. And yes, you've got an amazing online following, but actually more so, what's important is people making decisions, unlocking opportunities, for themselves because of what they see in you. That's amazing. And the other thing for me is, I think the ability to explain complicated concepts in a simple manner is massively underrated. Like when you look at skills, like on job sites, and people just talk about skills generally, that doesn't come up often, but I think it must be one of the greatest skills to have. And to have it's the differentiator for you, right? Because ordinarily, people just want to go to an airport, board their flight, and, call it a day. But you've been able to take people on this journey of the many, multifaceted aspects of airports and airplanes and everything related to those things. And I just think it's amazing. And I think if anyone's watching and they have that flair to explain, to bring complicated concepts and introduce it in a manner that is simple, then it's something worth leveraging. I find myself often drawn to content creators or educators like that as well, because it's just a lot easier to understand.
Yeah. Like if it just makes sense,
yeah,
then you're already like way ahead of most people.
Exactly. And also it's a testament that you understand what you're teaching, right? If you can't explain it in a manner that is simple, then do you truly know it?
Which is why my journey of content creation is I will ask every question under the sun, and then I'll pull my phone out.
Yeah.
But like I'm not pulling my phone out until I have grasped the thing.
Yeah.
Because like people think I'm an expert of all things aviation. Like I'm not. Like I just ask good questions, and like once I've figured out a nugget, I'll be like, oh, okay. Like, are you sure this is it? And they'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, oh. Yeah. Usually the way it works is like they'll take 45 minutes explaining something to me, and I'll repeat it back to them in 30 seconds. And they'll look at me like, how did you do that? And I was like,
amazing.
I don't know. I just explained it the way that it made sense to me. So that's literally, I would just do that, but on TikTok or on Instagram.
And let the rest of us be able to understand it even quicker.
Like condense 45 minutes of subject matter expert into 30 seconds and still give you the essence of what they're saying.
That's amazing. I love that. So a couple of months ago, you made the huge announcement on social media that you were quitting Heathrow Engineering to go into full-time content creation. Yeah. Congrats on that, by the way. I think that's amazing progress, and I love to see that. What was the turning point that led you to making that decision?
A lot was happening at work.
Right.
I had a lot of people who would support the work that I do, a lot of managers who would support the work that I do. And this page, I don't think they recognized how much it was growing because they're not on these platforms. So they were like, yeah, just do your thing. It's all right. Do your thing. But it got to a point where like doors and opportunities started to open up, which would make them raise their eyebrows. Like, huh? How did you get that? What? Why are you on a flight with Richard Branson? What? Do you know what I mean? Like, what?
As opposed to, oh, wow, that's amazing that you're on a flight with Richard Branson. Okay.
It became more of a, how did you manage to do that?
Right.
And the energy changed.
Right.
Not with everyone. Most people were very happy for me. But there was a few people who, and by the way, I've never shared this. This is the first.
Oh, this feels special that you're sharing.
Like usually I just give I wanted to like help the whole industry story, but this is the reality. Yeah. The energy started to change, and the reason I share this is because I realized I'm not the only one who goes through this, and I think somebody needs to speak about it. Yep. But when you chase your dreams, most people will be happy for you, but not everybody will be happy for you. And at work, I would, sometimes come in and the same people who were really supporting me were now, just by chance, the people who are managing my managers as managers. Like they were higher up in my exact sort of chain of command.
Yeah.
And now, rather than becoming enablers for me to do more stuff, they were being the opposite.
Obstructing.
Yeah, and like, you know, very, very much more difficult than I would have ever anticipated.
Yeah.
The sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was I was asked by the UK government to become an aviation ambassador.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you
That's
very
amazing.
much. So I applied, and there was like loads of people who applied, and then it shortlisted to like 10. And I was one of the 10 people who were basically representing the UK government, the Department of Transport, to the wider public about what a career in aviation is all about. And those same people who had changed, who are now in positions of power, specifically within my line management, turned around and actually said, you either are an engineer at the airport or you do this.
Oh, wow.
They will never say that they gave me a choice.
Yeah, but you were given a choice.
But I was given a choice.
Fundamentally. Yeah.
Fundamentally, I was given a choice. And I was told that there was no support for me to be doing this particular thing from their perspective. Because I need to concentrate on being an engineer. It's like, stop doing all this extra stuff.
Wow.
Just be an engineer.
Wow.
And it kind of felt like somebody was trying to put me in a box.
Yeah.
You know? And I wasn't having it.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, like,
Good.
you know, some, like, the best scenario example is like, you know, you've just grown, like, you've just spent years, like, growing a set of wings that you want to use for the rest of your career. And then here's somebody with a pair of scissors going, sit back down.
Yeah.
You know, don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
And it happened very rapidly, by the way. Like the whole mood changed within a matter of a month, right? Like a month to 2 months, everything had changed. It was really hard, but like it was the nudge, I think, from God to say it's time, you know, it's time to go out there. And actually, when I look at the flip side, the whole industry needs the support that I was doing at Heathrow. Like I was at Heathrow, I got to a point where I was sat in a room with all of our engineering apprentices, and literally there's everyone that they've hired in the past 5 years to join the engineering team at Heathrow Airport. And I asked a very simple question. All the senior management were there, and I said, who in this room would say that they decided they want to join this team after watching a video of mine on TikTok or Instagram? Who's inspired by something they saw of mine online to make you decide that this is the job that you want? 53% of the room put their hand up. And it was the minorities. It was the people from diverse backgrounds.
Who
the
saw
girls
themselves in you.
who said, yeah, like I literally am here today because I saw a video of yours on TikTok.
Wow.
And like I even had like the head of airport operations over my shoulder lean over and be like, wow, Mo, that's like more than half the room. And I counted it, 53% of the room.
It's amazing.
And I thought, wow, like this is actually moving the needle. And then, so put aside like what was happening in terms of politics, because this thing was bubbling away even before this happened. Like the fundamental question I used to ask myself is, where am I able to move the needle? Where am I able to have an impact that other people can't? What is it that God has put in me that if I put in a particular position, I'm able to not just have like tiny little marginal changes, I can make a huge shift that nobody else can have. And this is where I realized, like, I can be an engineer. Absolutely, I can be an engineer. But am I going to move the needle on engineering? I don't think so. I don't think I'm that guy. I'm not technically that person. But I can tell stories, I can create content, and I can move the needle in another way. And that's when I decided, actually, when all things considered, I was like, it's time.
That's wow. No, I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
And I'm positive that you made the right decision for yourself. And I think this is only the beginning, really, for you. I think my comment is really, companies need to find ways to empower and support people to be able to foster their interest. Because what I find is when those interests often, typically, help you perform better in your day-to-day role. And it's just such a shame that when you reach a certain height, then you start to get those eyebrows raising, and I think you've handled it maturely, and it's clear that you've made the right decision for yourself. So how are you finding the transition now? What are you finding to be the biggest challenges and rewards, of course?
When I first left, and this is, I guess, timely that you asked this question. When I first left, it was just a buzz of like, let's go, like that's it.
Yeah.
Like I felt like a new man. This was about 3 months ago, and then that buzz will only last so long, like that complete, like then you kind of have to set back onto like routines, discipline, rather than just the motivation of like, let's go tackle the world.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm sort of transitioning at the moment. I think I'm learning how to you go from being an engineer who kind of has their responsibility to all of a sudden being a business owner, where you need to learn how to automate. We were speaking about this just before the podcast started, like how do you automate? How do you set up systems? How do you step away?
Yeah.
At some point you get so busy that you have to. But that I'm currently going through that transition of like, there is a lot to do and I'm still sort of trying to hold on to it and do it all myself. Yeah. But actually, if I want to scale this, if I want to take this to the next level, then I need to actually like learn how to sort of build a team and empower them to take on more responsibility. The other side of this is that I went from sort of being able to go to like the office and chill with my colleagues and stuff to like unplugging basically from that whole ecosystem. Yeah. And that's very different. That's very different. That like I don't get to go to the office anymore and just chill with basically my mates who are my mates at work. Yeah. I don't have the right to do that anymore, right? So my social circle, my social life has taken a shift. I spend more time just on my own, just doing what I need to do. But I think there's beauty in that. I think that's from like one side. The other side is like, oh my God, like the amount of doors that God's opened up since I've left is unreal, like unbelievable. Like ever since I've taken the leap, and I put a post on LinkedIn saying, by the way, I'm out. That post got 500,000 interactions, like 500,000 views or engagements or whatever. And like, I was flooded with people saying, hey, how can we work together? And now I have all these brands and organizations who I'm lucky enough to basically be able to work with to then again promote the aviation sector. So now the aviation industry, so this thing that I was using to serve Heathrow, now I'm able to use that same mindset, that same platform to be able to serve not just Heathrow, but the whole aviation sector. And now I'm in a position where I'm able to speak to people across the whole board and actually be able to influence things at quite a relatively high level. Whereas before it was like, no, Mo, get back in your box. Now no one's telling me to get back in any box. I'm able to do whatever I want to do and work at a level which I'm very grateful to be working at.
It's amazing. Sounds really exciting.
Thank you.
Really exciting. So for others who want to share their stories through content creation, what practical steps, resources, communities would you recommend they plug into?
It's a very good question. So I joined something called the Part-Time YouTuber Academy.
Ali Abdal. Yeah.
So I was on cohort 1 of that. I think it's changed now. I think it's more like Zoom based. I don't know if it's like more of a cohort the way that it was before. But the community that came out of that was 10 out of 10. Yeah. Like I plugged into a group of people who are also trying to make it as content creators and now have like a lot of them are now full-time content creators. So seeing them take that leap was empowering for me. But if I was to go back in terms of practical steps, find a community of people, surround yourself with people who are going to be supportive of it. Yeah. Like the last thing you want is before you're about to upload something, have that cringe factor because you know that this person's going to see it or that person's going to see it. Like unplug from that. A lot of people try and take their own personal accounts, which has like maybe a couple thousand followers, and they want to build that into their sort of their brand page and their content creation page. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend starting a brand new page from scratch because you want the people who are going to be following you to be a certain type of person. But George from college who's following you isn't the guy who you want to be speaking to. So why are you now putting out content and this person's looking at you going, huh? I just knew you from like college. Why are you trying to be an influencer now? And that thought in the back of their mind might trigger you to not upload that next thing or just create a bit of friction and resistance. So my recommendation is always, if you're trying to start a journey, start a brand new page. Number 1. Number 2, figure out who you're trying to speak to, what your message is, like your niche. Choose a niche. Don't just create content about everything and like live with me like a lifestyle. You could, but it takes a certain you need to. I find most people who are in that niche got famous for something first, and then decided to like, hey, come live with me. But you gotta get famous for something. It's called, the quote is, niche down to blow up. So choose a niche, choose an area that you are comfortable with, and then the last thing is just add value. Like,
I love that.
At its core, just add value. Like, see what you can benefit the world with, and then create content that benefits the world, not just content for content's sake. If your content is value driven, if you're speaking to a particular niche, and you don't have the sort of the baggage of like past people who are watching your page, I think you can go very far. And just stay true to yourself. Like, honestly, the bits that make you weird and are the bits that make you wonderful. You know, like the and bits different. Like I'm fully myself on there. Like, I like planes. I'm sorry, like I just like planes, and that's just for most people. We're like, bro, it's just a plane. I'm like, no, I like planes. So
that's excellent. No, that's really good advice. I'm taking notes as well, actually. Before we move on to the last question, quickly, what can your audience look forward to this year? What exciting projects have you got coming up?
That's a very good question. So I'm having a few conversations with airports around the world where basically I want to do like an in-depth, end-to-end, like A to Z series of like, here's everything you need to know, and actually being able to collaborate with different airports in order to execute on something like that is kind of what I'm looking for, what I'm looking at creating currently. So I'm finding different partners in different airports that want to make something like that happen, basically. There's a lot of things actually in the works. There's going to be a very special announcement coming up probably later this year. Yeah, definitely later this year. Signed a very, very interesting deal with...
Looking forward to hearing more.
Yeah. So that should be fascinating, especially for the parents that follow me, I think specifically. And people who have a lot of young people in their life who are interested in this area. That'll awesome. Definitely be something that they should look out for. It's coming. Something very, very interesting is coming.
Well, I'm excited for you. Maybe we'll have you back to do a deep dive into that. No, that's great. And now the final question. And I've chosen this as the final question because to many, your achievements may appear effortless. But I know that, all of us experience setbacks, and you've been actually really vulnerable and real in sharing a couple of those that you've experienced in your videos. You've talked about, not getting into your top, I think, 3 or 4 choices of university, nearly failing your first year of uni, but turning it around to getting a top grade, and also not even getting your first graduate job or the first company that you applied to. So I'd like you to walk us through the key attitude that you've maintained to turn those situations around, as a final thought to leave us with.
I don't think a lot of my success comes from me in a weird way. I think a lot of my success comes from the prayers of my parents for me.
Wow.
So, and my grandma, and my grandparents. So, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like, hey, like this is what I done. I'd say just like be good to your parents.
Wow.
And pray that they pray for you.
Wow.
Because the prayers of your parents take you a lot further than anything that you can do for yourself. And if your parents are happy with everything that you're doing and you're trying to, I need to be better at this personally. But this is a reminder to myself first. Like, I think everything that I've achieved in my life has come down fundamentally to my parents' prayers for me, not necessarily just the stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
So be grateful if you have parents. Be grateful that they're there. See if you can serve them, and if you can serve your parents, and they are happy with who you are, and they decide that actually I wish you all the best, and I want you. My grandma always used to pray for me. She says, I hope when you touch dust, it turns to gold.
Wow. That's profound. That is so profound.
So that's insane. Like, if your grandma's praying that for you, and she says it from the bottom of your heart. Yeah, like, it's not really comes down to me. Like, fundamentally, who are they praying to? They're praying to an all-seeing, all-powerful being that, sits above us. And I truly believe in a God. I truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, yeah, success doesn't come from us.
Yeah.
Success comes from him. Remember that and be grateful.
Wow. What an amazing and profound final thought to end the interview on. I wasn't expecting that answer, but it deeply resonates with me. Thank you for sharing. And it's just been an absolute delight having you here, learning more about you and seeing how incredibly down to earth you are, in spite of all of your achievements, is just simply inspiring. So thank you. And to all you amazing listeners, I'm sure you would have taken a lot away from this interview. Thank you for sticking around. Make sure you share your takeaways in the comments, and we will be sharing all of Mohammed's his social media pages in the description. Thank you, and see you in the next interview.